It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. Hello. Did I say you're Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara?
I think so, but you can say it again if you like.
He's Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Welcome. And, well, my wish came true.
Yeah, what's that?
Jasmine Crockett is running for U.S. Senate in the state of Texas.
When Texas
all right.
turns blue, it won't be because of any one candidate, but because of each and every one of you doing your part. Turning Texas blue is what I want to talk to y'all about today.
There you go.
Okay.
So
it begins.
So Jasmine Crockett will no longer be my congressperson. She's going to run for the Senate. And as we told you last week, before she even announced, she was the leading candidate for the Democrats in Texas. You saw Colin Alred pulled
out. Yeah,
he dropped out.
Yeah.
So what you got? James Tallarico. I believe that's it. Yeah, because Beto has not announced yet.
Yeah.
I wonder if this keeps Beto out now.
He's contemplating while skateboarding in the Whataburger parking lot. It may take him a minute.
So, yeah, this is going to be interesting. It really, really is.
It will be, I think Colin Allred making the safe play. I don't know what his internals show, but he does obviously okay in his district, so just rerun for the seat that he already has, step out of that limelight, and then give it to, because here would be the question, knowing Jasmine Crockett is going to announce, if you're Colin Allred, don't you say, oh, okay, I'm out. Not that you're worried about her beating you. You're worried about the soup show that this is about to become for your party. And you're going to try and separate yourself from it. Because there would be a time, at some point, obviously, you're going to have to get on the debate stage in the primary season. But beyond that, then it just turns into the fiasco that it's going to be because Jasmine Crockett is involved. And, again, you've got a pretty safe seat right now. And then maybe you do something else later if you're Colin Allred. Not that anybody was really overanalyzing it like I was. But I just thought to myself, yeah, he kind of sees that he doesn't want to be in that big square circle that is going to be one chaotic mess of a primary season for the Democrats. I can't wait for the debates.
Well, what will be interesting is on the Republican side, because you've got Cornyn, you've got Ken Paxton, you've got Wesley Hunt. Yeah. That are running. And if some of the polls out there showed, and Republicans have looked national, not Texas, right, have looked at it and said, if Ken Paxton wins, that's going to be weak. That he's a weaker candidate. That changes everything. Yeah. If that's your belief, that changes everything with Jasmine Crockett in there.
Right. Sure.
Because you can take every single bat soup crazy thing that she has said and put it before the public in Texas.
Yeah. Yep. It's it won't be boring. That's for sure. And pretty soon, I don't know how you'll deal with it, Gary, but it won't be long before you'll have to say, you'll be forced to say, I no longer live in Jasmine Crockett's district. And let's all pray that we don't say we live in her state.
Well, it'll be. I mean, the election day, the primary election day is March 3rd.
Yeah.
I guess my point will be, is that going to be it? Because Crockett will, I believe, in the state of Texas with with Allred out, are his votes going to go to Tallarico?
Ooh, good question.
I
don't know. Yeah.
Or are they just going to go right to Jasmine Crockett and she's going to win in a landslide? I haven't seen any polls out yet. I was looking for some polls, and after she announced.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Because before she announced, I've always viewed and says, well, okay, it really doesn't count that much. Unless, if you look at it and your candidate hasn't announced and you still have like 90% of the vote, then that would matter.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to see if anything has been taken lately. Let me just look at some of the Senate polls out there real quick. Latest, let me see, when was this? Last week. Was the 2026 Texas Senate Republican primary. Cornyn 28, Paxton 27, Hunt 19. Interesting that Hunt has picked up, that Hunt is at 19.
Yeah.
Now, we know who he is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how he is, how well known he is overall by the public in Texas. Wesley Hunt.
I think you could say the same about Colin Allred, because he does well up here in North Texas, but statewide is his name. Jasmine Crockett's name is all over everywhere.
Yeah, because,
lover or hater.
Well, no, Allred is because he ran against Cornyn last time. Or not Cornyn, he ran against Cruz last time.
Yeah.
Hunt is a...
I guess so, yeah.
Hunt being a member of Congress, now, I think he's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And if you talk to conservatives and people, and I'm talking old school conservatives, because new school conservatives can be different.
Mm-hmm.
I think you would find a significant portion that would look at Hunt and say, I'd rather have him than the other two.
That might be a growing sentiment as we get closer to spring.
Yeah, because I'm amazed that Hunt starts out with 19. If that poll is, it's the coefficient poll. I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
But it's on Real Clear Politics, has it? But it makes you wonder. You say, okay, what does that what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking here. I'm trying to get to see if there's the latest. Besides that, if we go all the way, okay, see, there's really nothing major that I see going all the way back to November. So that's really it, just from the one side. But I am really anticipating maybe somebody took a quick poll that'll appear here during the show.
Yeah.
Because that would be interesting. The one thing I found interesting yesterday, and actually the last 2 days, we didn't talk about it yesterday, but it was Friday and Monday in the Rasmussen daily tracking poll, Trump at his lowest numbers. Now, we say Rasmussen because that is viewed as a Republican poll.
Right.
Where the president is always higher than in the other polls.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as we know, what's his name? Mitchell, seems to be a pretty big fan of Trump.
Right, yeah.
And of Republicans, and it's the lowest numbers he's had in the second term.
Right.
And right now, they are panicking over affordability. Everything yesterday. Trump's out there every day, every single day, saying that foreign countries pay the tariffs and we're benefiting and we're becoming rich. And it's an absolute lie. And everybody knows it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Don't be doing things that are self-evident that everybody knows is a lie. And Trump's out there every single day saying foreign countries pay the tariffs. We're going to give the foreign money to the farmers, and it's a lie.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, the fact that we talked about the over 200 items that got the exemptions, and now yesterday the total $12 billion package going to farmers, $11 billion for those who qualify, and an extra $1 billion for those who don't qualify, which has me scratching my head. But they know they have to give relief to farmers. Soybean farmers specifically need that relief, because there's no telling if there will be, again, any kind of relief of resetting those trade routes. I don't know, over the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, but
unless the Supreme Court comes back. But I don't put any I don't think the farmers put any hope in that, and you can't really put your money on that. You just have to wait and see when it comes to SCOTUS.
And for the Rasmussen poll, where the president has dropped, day one he had 56%. Now he's down to 43. That's a 13% drop. He's dropping, and you look at it. That comes from Republicans, and that comes from independents, and that comes strictly on one issue, affordability. Because if you look at the Republican polls on Trump, everything else, probably like us, everything else is through the roof.
Yeah, right.
In a positive.
Well, and the number of the outlets, the story I read was at CBS News, so take it for what it's worth. But the story of homes, or 75% of the homes in the U.S. are unaffordable based on income levels. So it's the median price of a home based on the median income, and 75% of the homes are not affordable. The word affordable or unaffordable is everywhere right now. And the GOP is using it and has been using it since the night of the New York City election, when Ramaswamy put the video out and sounded a lot like a couple of guys on Red Eye Radio talking about how there has to be a focus with the GOP on affordability. And that's, again, you saw the exemptions come out after that, the 200-plus food exemptions on tariffs. You see the total of $12 billion federal package that came out yesterday for farmers. This is all relief as a result of what?
And you see the panic to me comes from the president, because you just said Republicans are talking about affordability, and the president's up there every day saying affordability is a Democrat word. It's a Democrat word.
Right. Yeah.
And actually it came from Ramaswamy, who was well respected in Republican circles, going affordability. And then you saw everybody jump on it.
Yep.
And then the other one, the absolute panic is Trump still trying to promote, and it's the biggest economic lie out there, and it has been since day one, is that foreign countries are paying the tariffs, and therefore the foreign countries are going to make sure that the farmers are doing well, and it's a lie. It's coming
Bessent
from...
has said it again in recent days.
Yeah.
I think we're up to maybe a dozen times in the last couple of months that Bessent has said it in interviews on national television, that the importer pays the tariff.
And then I saw yesterday the White House saying he's going to campaign in 2024 like he did in 2026. If he keeps promoting what he is doing economically on affordability, that's not going to help Republicans next year. Mm-hmm. It will focus Democrats in saying, look at it, look at this, look at this, look at this. But the fact that he's out there every day saying foreign countries pay it, and his own Treasury Secretary every day is out there saying, no, they don't. You can't. Why the hell doesn't the right hand know what the left hand is doing? And the president Why does the president tell Bessent, shut up? You got to say foreign countries.
One or the other.
Right. It's embarrassing.
Well, and here's the problem. It's unnecessary.
Yeah.
You started in 24 this promise that you were going to bring prices down, when everybody knows if you hit the target rate of inflation, it's still going to go up by the average of 2%. Some prices will come down. And then everybody did the whole thing of, see, it shows, history shows tariffs don't cause inflation. That's because it slows the economy.
Right.
That's not what you want.
Well, that was the most bizarre thing a couple of weeks ago. We saw it. See, the experts are wrong. And all the,
right.
the what is it, Eric Doherty's from Florida, whatever, that he's basically a cheerleader for Trump. And I'm not insulting him for it. That happens in every single election. There are people that support you. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, there it is. The experts are wrong. The experts are wrong. Tariffs long-term, lower prices. And if you read it, it said, well, yeah, because prices go up, which slows down the economy. Therefore, inventory skyrockets. And because of supply and demand, prices go down, because the public can't afford to buy things.
What have I said for years now? What have I said for years now? The only true deflation we've ever had is during the Great Depression. Yeah. And you don't want deflation for that reason. No, it's the only way you get that kind of deflation is when the economy tanks.
But the administration, the Trump administration, Trump is talking to conservatives and Republicans like Democrats talk to Democrats, as if they're complete idiots. And that what they see each and every day is not happening to them.
And the talk is over.
Yeah, that's the other thing, too. The talk, for most people, it's not blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's like
whatever you're saying right now, it's whatever you're doing. It's whatever the results are of what you're doing. It's not even what you're doing. It's whatever the results are. It's the receipts they're seeing every single day.
And understand, we both voted for Trump 3 times.
Yep.
And with the current slate of Democrats out there, of course, we would do it again.
Mm-hmm.
But don't BS. Don't lie. Republicans don't need to lie. Conservatives don't need to lie. Stop lying, Mr. President.
And get on a solution.
Yeah. We are Red Eye Radio.
Hey there, Hope Savara here with Mother Trucker Yoga, and this is your health tip of the day. Healthy driver, healthy diesel, powered by House. Did you know neck pain affects nearly 70% of drivers at some point in their career? So let's loosen things up. Sit tall and tip your head to your right shoulder. Now pull your left shoulder down gently and hold for 10 seconds. Switch sides, left ear to left shoulder, right shoulder pulls down and hold for 10. Now roll your shoulders 5 big circles forward and 5 back. Open your mouth wide and stretch your jaw. Hold for 10. Close and repeat that 2 more times. Finally, take a deep breath in through your nose, pause, and exhale through your mouth. Small, simple changes lead to big results. Visit mothertruckeryoga.com and houseproducts.com for more info.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome in. Good morning. Thanks for being here this morning. So those are the 2 really political things I saw the other day. And like I said, in Rasmussen, for 2 days in a row, that hasn't happened. The president was tied last week, I think, a couple times at 44% for his lowest favorability rating in Rasmussen, but 43 both Friday and yesterday. That hasn't happened, which means if they do the 3-day rolling thing and then do the daily tracking poll out of it, that means a couple of the days he's down probably to 42 or 41%.
Right.
For the day, and then they sort of average it out, the rolling average. So affordability is still a huge problem, and that's why they're out there every day talking about it.
Well, it's also why the president is acting, regardless of what he's saying. Them acting on the tariff exemptions and then throwing $12 billion at farmers isn't nothing, and they know. So the question is, what beyond the SCOTUS decision? Because Bessent's talking like, well, we have some other ways we can just keep the tariffs going. And you and I are talking about that off the air after his recent TV appearances, and it's like, well, wait a minute. Not if they do a broad decision on authority.
Well, if they come out with and this will be interesting to see, if the Supreme Court comes out and says, no, you can't, the president can't tax and tariffs are a tax.
Right.
It's over. No other law matters. You can't bring another law in saying,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't. Exactly. That's the authority saying, well, he doesn't have the authority to do that.
Right.
And therefore, the 62 law, the 39 law, the 2025 law, I just...
Yeah.
None of it matters.
Right.
Because then at that point, it's, no, sorry, the president can't use tariffs. The president cannot. We view tariffs as a tax if it comes out that way. And I don't know if it's going to or not. I don't know.
Yeah, I really don't know.
There's 3 different forms of tariffs that they're hitting, and I don't know if they're going to view all the same. For example, the president coming out and saying a 5% tariff on Mexico if they don't abide by the rules of the water rights for the United States.
Right.
That might be, if it was temporary, acceptable under current rules. I don't know how that would be viewed by the Supreme Court.
Right.
Listening to Red Eye Radio. from the Uniden America Studios.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. You know, when we were talking about the president yesterday, talking about the relief for the farmers, the $12 billion. That'll be interesting if the $12 billion have to come from general funds because the tariffs have to be refunded to American companies. Mm-hmm. But the constitutional issue here, and there's, and I was thinking that you can actually look at the hearings yesterday before the Supreme Court, the slaughter issue on whether the president can fire an FTC official.
Right.
And the whole point is Congress created an independent commission that really isn't governed by anybody. And the Supreme Court's looking at that saying, well, Congress can't do that. You can't do that. You cannot create, well, excuse me, it seems as if that's where the majority is going. And they're looking at, the law from decades upon decades ago, the Humphrey decision, and saying, basically saying, well, that was flawed. Congress cannot create, because this is a point that they were bringing, that let me just get it here. I want to make sure. The attorney for Slaughter agreed that who was fired by Trump from the FTC agreed with the Chief Justice John Roberts when Roberts asked whether Congress could just take over some cabinet departments. He told Roberts that such a result is probably within the realm of possibility, although he emphasized that it would be a pretty small universe because so many cabinet departments wield at least some executive power. Justice Brett Kavanaugh, among others, was worried about such a scenario, telling the lawyer for Slaughter that it would allow Congress to create independent agencies without any requirement of partisan balance and with lengthy terms for the agency heads. That would give Congress the ability to create agencies to thwart future presidents, Kavanaugh remarked. And I want to get here to what Gorsuch said, because it's really, really interesting.
Boundaries.
Hang on 1 second here. Okay, wrong one. All right, here we go. Here it is.
And I'm wondering, I'll be honest, I'll put my cards on the table. Maybe it's a recognition that Humphrey's executor was poorly reasoned, and that there is no such thing in our constitutional order as a fourth branch of government that's quasi-judicial and quasi-legislative.
There it is right there. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
It's like, is there a fourth branch of government?
Right.
And so when you get into, to take a look at, the both cases, the tariff case, for example, because you've seen after the Supreme Court had the hearing, you saw people come out and say, well, wait a minute, are you telling me that the president can shut down trade, but he can't put tariffs on?
Mm-hmm.
If tariffs are a tax, and remember, it's paid directly by American corporations to the federal government.
Right.
And I wonder if that's why the president isn't. I just wonder if that's why the president, because in the hearings, the president's lawyers agreed American companies pay the tariffs,
right?
Then pass it on to the consumer. Everybody agreed on that,
right?
In the hearing. Bessent's out there every day saying no, American companies pay it, and part of it's passed on to the consumer. And the president's saying every single day, foreign countries pay it. It's just like, why is he doing it? Because it's so obviously not true. And everybody in his administration legally, and the Treasury Secretary saying, no, that's not what's happening. It's
right.
The American companies.
In fact, Bessent has set up the warning and repeated that, I think it was a week ago last Sunday, but in the last several days, repeated the fact that the money would basically have to be refunded. And that would hurt the American consumer, and that would be very difficult, and blah, 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 blah. He said that several times.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's bizarre just to watch the back and forth, because if you're watching, like, does the president even know what his own people are saying, or is he doing that on purpose because he does not want to admit what he believes would cause him to lose the case? Now, but the point is, if the Supreme Court comes back and says tariffs are a tax, and if you read it, when you see that you can't, the president can't tax when it comes to duties and imposts, which are tariffs.
Right.
I mean, it couldn't be. You look at it and you go, well, isn't that crystal clear? That because that's what duties and imposts are. And so. And this is a point of when even Congress comes out and says, well, we want to give the president the leeway to do tariffs however he wants, that Congress cannot pass on their constitutional responsibility to another branch of government.
Right.
And just like here in this case, with does the president have the authority to fire somebody from a department that Congress has set up where, in essence, there is no oversight in the quest for independence? Well, it may sound good, but you can't do that under our Constitution, under the three branches of government. You can't have independent agencies out there that aren't accountable to either Congress or the president.
Right.
You just can't have a department out there floating on its own.
Right.
It doesn't. That's not how it works, which is why Gorsuch talked about the fact of that we don't have a fourth branch of government that's quasi judicial and quasi legislative.
Right. It kind of rides the fence on both.
Right. Maybe you're trying to backfill it with the better new theory that itself recognizes that we've got a problem. That's Gorsuch.
Yeah.
And so those are the things you're looking at. But when that came out immediately, and the president's influencers were all over social media, they're saying that the president can't put tariffs on, but he could shut down trade between two countries. Yeah.
Yeah, he can do that.
Yeah. You may sit there and say, well, that doesn't seem to make sense. But the argument is the Constitution clearly says that.
Right.
The president can regulate, but he can't tax.
Right.
So, yeah, regulate means
he can sit down and negotiate new deals. And, again, even that authority is limited. But when you look at the embargoes that have been imposed on, I don't know how many countries, just in recent years, where you say, okay, we're not buying oil from this country anymore. We're not going to trade, and we're not going to purchase. There it is. There's no tariff involved. You just shut the door.
Or you say we're going to reduce our trade by 10% with the country.
Right.
And that's why if they come out and say that a tariff is a tax, then any of the laws that Bessent did. When you were watching that, did you see? I didn't see anybody come back at him and say, well, if they say he doesn't have the authority to tax, a 1962 law or any other law isn't going to matter.
It doesn't matter, because I read through that 62 law and the key points of that law, the summary of that law, and in the spirit of that law, it's irrelevant if they have a broad ruling and say that the executive branch does not have the authority. And there's no way around that. You're not going to be able to use anything else. Again, if he wants to impose embargoes and say we're just not going to buy whatever it is, soft lumber from Canada or whatever it is, that's fine. But the tariffs, if it's a broad authority, the tariffs would be gone. And the question would be, again, to what extent? And there was also a question, I think somebody wrote about it on SCOTUS blog the other day, but somebody did the analysis of, they may have some kind of temporary remedy if it indeed did come to the point of the federal government owing that revenue back to these companies, because the article was based on the Costco lawsuit. Costco wants to be the first in line.
Yeah, they want to, yeah.
And so if there's going to be a refund to importers and importing companies, then they want to be on, the top of that list. And the question would be, it's not a given that the court would order refunds to be paid immediately. And we're in all new territory, and we don't know how that would work.
Do you see a way? Because this is, I've been racking my brain over this. Do you see a way that they can parse all of it and say and look at it and say, well, that he's not following what the 1978 law or the 74 law or the 62 law? Do you think that they will try to find a way not to come out and say that the president, that tariffs are a tax so the president can't do it, and actually try to parse all the laws and say, in these instances, the president doesn't have the ability to do that?
I don't know what it looks like, but I think that's a distinct possibility. Because, we're looking at basically the combination of some actions here by, these small businesses and they could come out and say, well, look, on this level, the decision is here and it's ordered that, he can't do it to this extent, or he can't do it based on this law. He can't do it justifying. He could put in a temporary, injunction that might include a tariff if it were not lasting. It would have to have a sunset on it as it's announced of 90 days, 6 months, whatever it is, in order to remedy the problem of what they're citing as the emergency. As the high court, we're not going to get in the business, and they likely won't ever get in the business of deciding or defining what an emergency is from an executive branch. But I think it is possible that it could end up being kind of a fragmented decision
where they would not touch at all the authority of tariffs, but just say that, which then would give Besant the ability to say the 1962 law we're going to put in, and then you start all over again.
Yeah, because I think they would approach it again if they're saying you can't do it based on this, but we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to decide on an authority. I think they use another basis for it and implement them right away. They probably already have it written. The announcement will come out likely that day. These tariffs will remain based on this, and then that would require a new court challenge to get to the Supreme Court.
I believe, though, you probably have enough conservatives that believe if they go down that road to judge whether the president has the ability to tariff, that they will say no.
If there is a decision on that,
if they go down that road, I can't see. I can't see Gorsuch.
Nope. Look, you've already got the three liberal justices already saying. They were saying that during the hearing. This is a tax. This is a tax. This is a tax. They repeated it. If you've got those three votes or on your side, and then you had Gorsuch.
Probably Thomas. You've got Thomas on board.
I don't remember what Thomas. I can't remember during the hearing what was said. But I think Roberts probably. And so you could get to a 6-2 decision or a 6-3 decision on that. I don't, maybe. I think you could easily get 5-4 because I think you could get, I'm thinking Gorsuch and Roberts are going to go with the liberal justices, and there's your 5. If they decide, again, this is if they decide on authority, based on what they were talking about during the hearings and how many of them mentioned that it is a tax.
You had Barrett, though, talking about the fact that, the original law from 78 granting presidents emergency power to regulate
She seemed to
import.
be making points on both sides, and so it was hard. It was a hard read.
Yeah, it doesn't encompass tariffs.
Right. Yeah.
But she's talking about the law, not the Constitution at that point, which is the thing that we've talked about.
Right.
We are Red Eye Radio.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I was just reading that some of the questions that Alito and Justice Thomas asked were about, well, doesn't the president have the authority in some type of an emergency? You know, and they were saying, well, maybe they seem less skeptical in restraining Trump on the tariffs. But then it gets to the point that there's 3 different types of tariffs. Remember, there are the ones that are just put on other countries because we're putting tariffs on other countries.
Right.
Does it mean they're going to parse it? That some of the tariffs are going to be viewed as unconstitutional and others are not?
Could be. It could be. It'll be interesting to see that decision, which could happen anytime.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Good morning. Here we are. We made it to the 9th of December. And I really don't know. I don't know where to fit this audio cut in, Eric, but so I'm just going to play it right now because I thought it was really just fascinating because it's a perfect example. Not that we're even on this discussion, not that it's a actual current event of something that happened yesterday, but I just thought it was beautiful in how a liberal will not answer a question. And it was actually Bill Maher on his drinking and smoking podcast. Where he drinks and smokes, and he had Ana Kasparian on from well-known liberal, the Young Turks and all that, and she was wearing a very appropriate dress in the Western world. As you know, Bill Maher in the past has attacked Islam and said, "You don't have as a woman the same rights." Well, that's where he is going with her on this dress, and it's just a fascinating, and I mean just a fascinating conversation, how she attempts to deflect, but he calls her on it. Here we go.
If you had to live in the Middle East, so tomorrow, Anna, you got to go live in the Middle East, where would you live? You can pick one city, any city. You can, as far away as, say, Pakistan. You could live in Karachi. You could live in Cairo. You could live in Amman, Jordan. You seem to love Lebanon. I mean, Beirut's nice when the bombing's not happening and the assassinations have stopped. Or you could live in Syria. I hear that's wonderful in the summer.
Well, we now have Al-Qaeda terrorists leading Syria.
Or the Houthis, I'm sure, would make room for you.
Yeah.
Tel Aviv. Or the West Bank, Ramallah, I think is wonderful for a little, in the fall it gets lovely. Where would you live? What city would you live in?
Well,
where do you think you'd be comfortable in that dress?
I'm sure it would not be comfortable in this dress in any of the various Middle Eastern countries that have been destabilized by
You're not really blaming it on Whitey.
Listen.
Are you? You're blaming Islam on Whitey?
I'm not blaming Islam on Whitey.
But what you're saying is we destabilized. That's why you can't wear that dress?
Did we not destabilize?
Wait a second.
We were funding terrorist organizations in Syria during the Syrian civil war, starting under the Obama administration.
That's why
Did that not destabilize Syria?
No, what's destabilized?
There's a literal Al-Qaeda terrorist.
We're talking about your dress.
Oh,
why?
It looks good. I know it looks good.
You're saying you can't wear that dress in Syria because of Whitey destabilizing?
I didn't say that.
Okay, that's what
You're putting words in my mouth.
Okay, great.
But the United States did destabilize various Middle Eastern countries. Are you going to deny that?
I asked about the dress, and you went right to destabilize. So is that why you couldn't wear that dress? Why couldn't you wear that dress? Why couldn't you walk down?
You want me to talk about jihadism and Islam, but like,
why won't you?
Listen,
why won't you?
I mean,
Why?
I don't believe in jihadism, which is why I'm furious that the United States just had a freaking Al Qaeda terrorist in the White House.
It's not just jihadism that is preventing you from wearing that dress. Are you saying every Muslim is a jihad? I don't think they are.
Bill.
Okay, why can't you wear that dress?
Let's focus for a second.
No, you won't answer this question.
That was, and I know it's got nothing to do with any of the topics we've been talking about. Yeah. But when we saw that audio cut earlier, we said we just got to play it because it's a perfect example of a liberal not wanting to answer a question.
Well, and not owning it.
Right, and it's the fact that in the vast majority of Islamic countries, women are not treated as regular citizens.
Right.
It's that simple.
Right.
And she can't answer the question.
Right.
And so it destroys her credibility on so much else. It destroys anybody's credibility. And we've said this before. Not all cultures and not all religions are equal in what we view as Western morality.
Right.
And most of us agree with Western morality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we do, little problem I have, with the whole women getting the vote thing. But, besides that.
Wait, whoa. When did that happen?
And the driving thing that we allow them to drive.
They're allowed to drive?
Yeah, they're allowed to drive here. Yeah. I know.
Well, thank goodness not in my household. Oh, God.
But it's just
please make sure she's listening to George Norrie tonight.
You should see you should see the look on her face.
Yeah.
She doesn't know what to do because she can't answer it. Isn't that interesting that you live in the United States of America and you view yourself as a liberal? And by the way, she has I will give her credit. She's attacked. She's gone after the liberals have gone so crazy. She's gone after them at times. And I give her credit for that. But can you imagine not being able to answer a question?
No, because
think about this.
Because the question then becomes, where are your convictions? If you can't answer the question, where do your convictions lie? Because these are very simple answers, and maybe not everybody wants to hear them. But where are your convictions if you can't answer questions? If all you can do is dance around questions all day long?
Yeah.
Then what is it that you actually believe?
I know, exactly. You lose credibility and everything else when it's such an obvious.
Right.
All you have to sit there and say, yeah, in many of these Islamic countries, women are not treated as regular citizens.
Right.
They are second-class citizens. And they are forced to do these things. If not, they will be punished for doing so.
Right.
And I believe that's wrong. She can't do that.
And
Bill Maher knows it.
Well, everybody in the world knows the truth about it. It's a fact.
Yeah.
It's not a controversy. It's not something they're debating currently in terms of implementing it as a part of a culture or religion. It's already in place. It is a fact. And you can't say it. Why? Man, they go so far out of their way walking on the eggshells. Well, because, we kind of touched on it yesterday with Hollywood. Hollywood went down the inclusive route so bad that they've destroyed everything, that everything must be included in everything. Well, no, this is a story about something else. Well, but it must include this. No. This is... Okay, somebody told me this, and I don't know. I don't know. I've got to look up the accuracy of it. I laughed so hard, I didn't even have energy left to Google it. Somebody told me in one of the latest Transformer movies, I don't know if it was an animated version or the live-action movie version of the Transformers. I didn't know they were still making them. That one of the Transformers is trans. And I don't mean changes from a Camaro into a refrigerator. And so they had to correct the language of another character in the movie. If that's accurate, it's the most stupid thing because, again, I mean, I know Transformers starts with trans, but you're making a movie for kids basically about robots that turn into rockets or rockets that turn into Firebirds or whatever it might be. They go out of their way, and you just heard it. This is a great example. You can't just say the truth about cultures that everyone knows. This is not something that Bill Maher is just making up on his program or saying, what if this were the case?
Right.
It's the case.
Well, she's not arguing that either. She's not even stating, well, that's wrong. That's not
right.
That's not happening.
Right.
It was a simple thing.
Right.
She's wearing a very attractive, very, revealing dress.
Mm-hmm.
Not by our standards.
Right.
Because it showed her arms and it probably was above the knee.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. No, don't worry. No cleavage. Yeah. just arms and legs. And
right.
Bill Maher was making the point, where could you wear that? Right. In all the countries that you claim, the United States is to blame for, why can't you wear a dress?
Right.
And then they've been destabilized by the United States. And my God, that was so bad. Seriously, do they feel any shame?
No,
because if I answer
the opposite, they feel pride. They think they're being heroes.
If I answered a question like that, I would say to myself, I'm never going on another TV show again.
It'd be over. No, in my mind, I would be packing U-Haul boxes to go live in a makeshift cabin.
Yeah,
somewhere where off the grid.
I wouldn't want to show my face.
Yeah,
maybe we should do that on the show from now on. No, we're not going to answer that question. No, we're not. No,
yeah,
we're not. We don't have. We don't have. Let's come in tomorrow.
Yeah.
We don't have an opinion on anything anymore.
Right.
And if you ask us a question, we'll deflect to something else.
Right.
And by the way, we've never argued like that. And you will have even some conservatives. That
Right.
was one of the criticisms that we heard from people about Sean Hannity.
Mm-hmm.
When Sean Hannity would be asked a question, I haven't heard it in a while. I haven't watched Sean in a while, and consider him an old friend. But that was one of the criticisms. Someone would say, why are the Republicans doing this? He goes, why are the Democrats doing that?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, but you're not answering, either defend or attack the side that you're on.
Right. Right. If something's wrong.
Don't
if you don't believe in something, then you should say it. Right. If you believe, especially anybody in office who's serving in office, they work for me. That's the way I look at it. If they're in elected office or appointed by somebody in elected office, they work for me. They work for the people. They work for us. And we should hold them accountable. The left doesn't believe that. The left is all about making, the whole idolatry thing. But the right has become, in many ways, far too often, they have engaged in that similar behavior. I don't defend somebody just because I voted for them. If I don't believe in what they're doing, if I believe it is not good, because here's the thing, if I vote for someone, I want that power to mean something and to be lasting, especially through a midterm. In the case of President Trump, I want his entire second term for him to have the leverage of his party. Now, a lot of that is on his party and the poor job that they have done. But he's going to have to, them saying he's going to campaign in 26 like he did in 24. That's great and wonderful. But you better have some offerings. There's going to have to be some changes made when we talk about affordability and everything else. I don't have a problem answering that question. You and I have taken hits, I don't know how many times over the years, going back to the George W. Bush days.
Since '89.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
I've taken hits.
Yeah. So,
I remember taking hits when Ross Perot, because again, the populace just loved Ross Perot.
Yeah,
remember when he came out and says 50 Cent attacks on gasoline to pay off the debt.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
cut spending.
Right.
We're not going to
exactly.
We're not going to put a 50-cent federal tax on it, and people were furious. But it will pay down the debt. Now, this is the interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was viewed at that point as not wanting to cut the deficit because I wasn't in favor of a 50-cent gallon tax. So it just shows you how things evolve over the years.
Right. and the debt was a little bit smaller back then. But if you look at again, the left, they're not embarrassed by not being able to answer the question. They're proud because they think they're taking a stance for somebody. You're not taking a stance at all. What about the women in those cultures who aren't allowed to do things?
Well, it's the same thing with the left when it came to the women on the left when it came to the radical transgender movement. We're fighting for women, so we want men to dominate.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't. They're not ashamed of that opinion.
No, the new class of women is men.
Right. They're not ashamed of it, and they promote it passionately, and it's embarrassing. It's like, stop it.
No, it really is.
Stop it.
And it is when some on the left are clearly recognizing how cringe this whole thing has become.
And then you got like Keith Olbermann going after Riley Gaines.
Yeah.
Cursing at her and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you're just mad because you couldn't win.
Yeah.
You're just like, my God, is there any type of self-awareness at all?
No, he thinks he's a hero.
I know. It's just
and the anger just overrides him all the time. I mean, this is somebody who's just bitter, angry. Again, many of these people, not all, but many of these people have never known joy. They've never known joy in their life. Man, experience. I think that's what we talked about. Rosie's therapist telling her, take a break from Trump for a few days. She couldn't last 2 hours.
2 hours.
What do you consider to be joy? Well, there is no joy because he's still president.
There is no joy.
You've got millions of dollars. You can live anywhere in the world you want to live and live a very comfortable life, and no one can tell you can't. Why can't you find joy?
Because you're a miserable
human being. Just say it. No, I'm miserable. I'm going to be miserable.
We are Red Eye Radio.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Among changes in the Christmas tree industry, meeting consumer demand, where they are grown. Western Washington Christmas tree grower John Tillman says expansion of Christmas tree production has occurred in locales not traditionally thought of as growing areas, such as the Deep South.
Once they started planting Leland cypress down in Texas and some of those states down south, they were sure added to the industry, and it gave people a chance locally then to go out to the farm and purchase.
John Kushla of Mississippi State University Extension acknowledges that many southeastern Christmas tree species cannot tolerate being cut or being out of water for a prolonged period of time.
So they have to be cut live on the farm and taken home at that point. They'll last through the Christmas season. Some trees do better than others in that regard, but that's our situation down here.
Put another way, Christmas tree varieties grown in much of the nation's southern tier are meant for local, perhaps regional, markets. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I'm just reading this here after we talked about Hollywood yesterday. Kristen Stewart calls entertainment industry a capitalistic hell. A capitalist hell that creates barriers for artists. She said the entertainment industry is a capitalist hell during an interview on Saturday and said it hated women and marginalized voices. We're in a pivotal nexus because I think we're ready for a full system break. You know what I mean? I mean that across the board and also specific to the world that I live in, absolutely the world that you live in, which is very exclusively the entertainment industry. She spoke to the New York Times. We need to sort of start stealing our movies. I'm so appreciative of every union. Trust me, we would not survive without them, but some of the terms and some of the rules and some of the structures we've set up have created unbelievable barriers for artists to express themselves. She argued that the industry needs a workaround. We'll have more on that coming up because it relates to what we were talking about yesterday.
Yeah.
Catch Red Eye Radio live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And we're our Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app, and you can listen when and where you choose. So to finish this year, because it just was interesting that we had brought up yesterday Hollywood.
Yeah.
And, and what was the because we were talking about Steve Byrne, but what was the whole premise of that yesterday? How did we start that?
I think it was Rosie and her therapist.
Oh, okay, yes, yeah. Rosie and her therapist. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, it had to be Trump related.
Yeah.
So, but I thought this was perfect. Kristen Stewart calls entertainment industry a capitalist hell that creates barriers for artists. I think having it be so impossible for people to tell stories and having it to be such an exclusive and rarefied novel position to be to find yourself doing so is capitalist hell. It hates women, it hates marginalized voices, and it's racist. Remember, she's describing Hollywood.
Yeah, right.
It's just so difficult to make movies. It just doesn't need to be. I'm trying to think of some sort of weird, like, Marxist, communist-like situation that other people can definitely think. Of course, this psycho is saying that, but I think it's possible, especially in these kind of narrow and exclusive environments. I'm not talking about the world at large, but for us, the system has barred people and made it difficult to be honest. So somehow a Marxist communist infrastructure that runs Hollywood, she believes would solve what she believes is a problem. And by the way, there is no problem with entertainment. There's no problem with entertainment in America. I can find entertainment wherever I want. In fact, I find more entertainment on YouTube from individual people, content providers that put out things out there. You better look at yourself and sit there and say, would communism solve the problem when the free market on YouTube has created billions of people watching that? When YouTube, because there's so much individual content, has made it where somebody like me, a capitalist, will pay money not to get something, the commercials, because I find that the content that individuals put out there that aren't big movie productions are better than what they're putting out in Hollywood for the most part. Not that Hollywood doesn't put out some good movies, but for the most part, I spend way more time on something like a YouTube where I can find anything that I want than Hollywood that's trying to lecture me. A communist, Marxist infrastructure should be running Hollywood. My God.
I don't know if we're coming to the end of an era of conjured up stories written, fiction and fantasy and make believe, when reality, and we're not talking reality TV, we're talking, things like YouTube or social media seem to be getting all of the attention. I have a family member who's monetizing like you wouldn't believe on something as mundane as payroll. Isn't that wild?
No,
it's crazy.
No, it's not.
She thought, and she tells me all the time, I had no idea. I posted a video that went viral, posted another one, and she was doing other things on her social media. And she said, it's unreal. And no, it isn't. It's very real because Hollywood has become, again, it's okay to tell a story. Hollywood doesn't believe that. You have to tell everyone's story in every story. No, you don't. They go out of their way. There's a lot of crap that's out there that I wonder, how in the world did that get greenlit? Who in the world said, oh, this is a good idea, we should make this? And then there's some other stuff that was like, oh, man, that's really good. And then Hollywood realized also the attention span. We don't need things to go on for 10 seasons, 12 seasons, except for The Simpsons and Law and Order. But other than that, we're good. Because you can wrap up a storyline, and you shouldn't, they call it the third act, where there's a lot of filler, and then you get to the big crescendo ending. Well, tell a story. But that focus is all gone. And the focus is gone because, well, why should we tell this story? It's a good story. But what impact is it going to, I don't know, people are going to pay money for it? I mean, if you think about some of the great movies of our time, I mean, they were fairly creative. You have to be creative, and they didn't have to worry about walking on eggshells. These days, nope. It's got to be all-inclusive. Everyone's story must be told in every story. Nope. You can't do that. Because now you're making it a non-story. And it's clear you're just getting people to basically every agenda is getting in line in order to be represented in the movie, and it's nothing. It's crap. It's garbage.
Well, I guess communism would give you that, would it not? Well, no, they wouldn't. Communists, you'd have to toe the party line.
Well, communists, all the movies would be about the great government and how it provides for the people.
Instead of government conspiracies,
right,
it would be people conspiracies against the government.
Exactly. And then at the end, a disclaimer on every movie. If you know of anyone who is conspiring against the government, there are officials in the lobby that would like to talk to you.
Well, I love it that she's complaining and calling Hollywood racist and too capitalist and misogynist and everything else. And it goes back to, remember when the Oscars a few years ago, that they were saying, okay, we need to have minority categories. And it's like, yeah, but it just should be the best movie. You shouldn't be breaking it down into minorities. And then you had a number of actors stating that the Oscars were racist.
Right. The Oscars too white was the hashtag.
Right.
Oscars too white. And I think Will Smith was a big part of that.
And we somebody who did box office gangbusters because nobody cared that he was black.
Everybody that went to see those movies or rented the movies or whatever, voluntarily paid their hard-earned money to see him in those movies.
But think about it. What they're accusing liberalism is what they accuse the other side of all the time.
Yeah.
But when you are the party that practices identity politics, which is you judge people by groups and not individuals, and you're a part of that party, and you're part of the radical transgender movement, one of the biggest organized misogynist movements that I've ever seen coming from a major political party, what the hell do you expect? I mean, they're imploding on one another.
Right.
The one thing when we talk about YouTube, well, first, before I go there, it's almost Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot, off the top of my head, tell you any movie that's out there right now. Not one. I don't know any that's out there. You might, because you've got granddaughters, but I don't know of
My
any.
youngest daughter went to see something with some friends the other day, and I can't remember what it was. It was a scary movie, and I can't remember which one it was. It's not the new. She saw the new Conjuring a few weeks ago, but it wasn't that one. It was something else.
that one. Okay, I knew when the Conjuring. I haven't seen it, but I want to just because the acting is superb in it.
Yeah.
I just love the people that play. Oh, well, I can't think about the former husband and wife paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
And you know why? Because I remember back in the 60s with Operation Blue Book from the Air Force with UFOs, and I just can't think of their names right now. The actual couple, they wrote a thing on, people being abducted. I remember it was in the newspaper. I remember reading it as a young kid. So I've always known them. And so when The Conjuring came out and it was based on them, I went, okay, I got to watch it. And the actors portraying them are just wonderful. I mean, they are just, you buy into it. You buy into it hook, line, and sinker, the seriousness of what they're investigating at that point. So not saying that there's not good movies out there, but here we are a couple of weeks from Christmas, and I don't see any movie ads anymore.
Yeah, I see some digital occasionally on certain websites, but it's occasionally. It's not a lot. And part of the problem is I mean, I saw the other day this, I forget what it was. There was an article that included Jason Momoa, who's played Aquaman for several years. And they said the star of last year's Aquaman, the something, they put one out last year too? Really? I had no idea. And I'm like, I look, because I look at those things, and it's not just that I'm outside the demographic. You and I study the business of things, as part of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And Hollywood's business, well, I had a nearly 4-hour conversation with a friend of mine who's a Hollywood stuntman. And he told me, he said, look, it's drying up in a really quick way, in quick fashion. Read a story of a guy that was a writer on TV shows, one TV show for 12 years. He was a writer, and now he's working a regular job. It's that the people aren't buying what they're trying to sell. Tom Cruise aside, nobody wants to make a movie for the sake of making a good movie for whatever it is it's going to be. Now, I'll say the last Mission Impossible, it wasn't great, in my opinion. But the other movies he's done, and the Top Gun movie, both of them were huge. But he knows that you've got to get certain elements in and make the movie the movie great.
The thing is, it's not just an age thing, because when my mother was in her 70s and 80s, she was always watching movies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Always.
Right.
And my dad just never. My dad watched Gunsmoke. Besides that, he hasn't watched another TV show, I don't think, ever.
Yeah.
On a consistent basis.
Yeah.
He would turn on Carson once in a while, and he used to turn on Jay Leno a little bit.
Yeah.
But that would be about, that was after the nightly news. He was never really a television watcher or a movie watcher, really.
Yeah.
But my father was the one that brought us to 2001 Space Odyssey.
Yeah. My dad loves cop shows.
I said oddity. I'm thinking of Bowie.
Blue Bloods, NCIS, things like that. Dad loves any kind of cop show, investigative show. He'll watch that stuff. But, it's the American public is very picky because there are so many choices that compete for our time that we're going to spend in front of whatever kind of screen it is. And Hollywood has forgotten that because they think they need to be about messaging. They need to be about a cause. Well, sorry,
I think you're like me. If you turn on the TV and it's something, from Hollywood, and like a millisecond after that they're attempting to throw a political lecture at you, are you gone immediately? I don't even wait. I don't even wait to see what they're selling.
Yeah.
I'm like,
no, I'm out.
Because at that point, I want to be entertained. It's not like I'm doing then sometimes I have to say to myself, okay, go back, watch it, because you can use it on the radio. But if it wasn't for that, it'd be like I would never do it.
One of the surprises over the last year is a few John Cena movies that have been on Amazon, and they're very funny. He's hilarious. And I'm like, this is good. And it's just they're just having fun.
Because sometimes you just want mindless entertainment,
exactly.
Which is entertainment.
That's what it's about.
We are Red Eye Radio.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And finally, with the whole talk about Kristen Stewart, the actress, saying that they need communism and Marxism in Hollywood to make it work because it's a capitalist nightmare and it's racist and everything else. Well, these are all liberals. I don't know of many conservatives. Well, I do know some conservatives.
Yeah.
But they aren't the movers and shakers.
No,
they're not the ones making the decisions. I'm talking about actors.
Yeah, my buddy who's a stuntman is a staunch conservative, as are a lot of the stuntmen and women in that industry. But, they don't have the leverage that the studios have and the actors and actresses have.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.